Hi, everyone. Welcome to March, and it's this month's episode of Rebecca and Rebecca. It's time for a book review because, this is a place where we love books. My name is Rebecca Yager, coming to you from Dallas, Texas, and my partner in crime and books is Rebecca Reed in Indiana. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well, doing well. We are excited because we are talking about a book that I think we both really loved and kind of a surprise for me, but it's Suspended in the Stars by E.A. Hendryx. And so let's tell the folks about the book and then we'll get started on our conversation.
Okay, well, this is the first book in the Xeris, I hope I'm pronouncing these things right,
Iris.
but Xeris Galaxy
Mhm.
Saga. Um, and here's what the blurb says. It says, a girl in hiding, a boy on the run. The fate of the galaxy between them. When Tali Zarna is forced to hide rogue soldier Rena Kartha, her life isn't the only thing threatened. Living as the famed soaring staress on the circus spaceship Midway masks her true identity, but Renner's very presence threatens to draw unwanted attention. As a former royal guard, Renner holds secrets of his own. Like evidence of a political assassination, he's on a mission to deliver to the Xeris Galaxy's governing council. Renner's flirtatious confidence is at odds with the seriousness of his mission. But when his former guard captain, Joss Uli Tai, discovers him hiding amongst the circus performers, Tally risks everything she's come to cherish, going so far as to leave the safety of the Phenomena Circus to do what is right. With Joss closing in at every turn, Tally and Renner come close to finding the High Council, only to discover corruption at its core. Their only option for escape is a cocky smuggler who's not quite what he seems, and an underground resistance group called the Rising that's fighting for change in the galaxy. Faced with the weight of her true identity and the cost of embracing it, Tally must decide if she is willing to give up everything for the sake of saving the galaxy, even if that means giving up the boy she loves.
Ooh. So who would have ever thought of putting a circus in space, number one?
Yeah.
Pretty incredible the world that Emily has created here with this book. So
Yes, I
overall,
enjoyed
yeah.
enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was very creative and imaginative, and she really just kind of let her brain go on this one and took, all the things that she really likes because it in her bio, and if you've ever talked to her, you'll know she likes sci-fi things. She's kind of a fan of those, and she really just took that and let it go and let it run. And the creatures are interesting, and the space circus idea is interesting, and just how she explains the setting and the way the ship, I mean, I could picture all of it, and I had a great time like drawing those creatures in my head and figuring out what a six-legged whatever it was, and all of that. It was just really fun.
Yeah, it was. I wrote in my notes about it that it felt like the first Star Wars movie from like 1977, that it was fun, it was a little campy, it was adventurous, and there were characters, even with all this magical space age world, the characters were very relatable. Tally and Renner were a lot of fun, were real to me, even in this setting.
Hmm. Yes, and um I think we've talked about this a little bit, and it was the characters are, you could put them anywhere and
Mm,
have a story.
mhm,
Um, it
mhm,
wouldn't be this particular exact story, but you could put them in a love story, and you're not gonna, any type of love story, a contemporary love story, or wherever, and these things that they feel are common to romance stories. So if you
mhm,
like romances,
mhm,
this is a romance. It's just that it's set in space, so you have a little bit of things, you have to suspend some disbelief on some things. And
mhm.
although I think she does a really good job with the science of it. I'm not a scientist or a mathematician or anything, but it was just enough for me to be like, "Oh, yeah, she's got this figured out. It all fits together.
Mhm.
She's it's logical. Um, it's not techie so that it's not too techie, right? There's enough mention of things that you understand that there are rules for things, and there's an order to things, and there's a way that everything functions, and the society has rules of its own, and there's cultures and things, but it's not, like, overly technical, like, some
Yeah.
sci-fi stuff gets too in-depth for me, and I'm like, "I don't care about this how to build this hyperdrive." I could care less, but she doesn't do that. It's a really nice happy medium with mentioning the things and the interesting,
Mhm.
aspects of it, but not getting into the technical stuff. I mean, I complain about that even in, like, romantic suspense sometimes
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I don't wanna know how to op the gun works or whatever,
Or
so
how to
I
build a
have
bomb or
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
it the techie stuff does not detract from the story, and it doesn't slow down the story, and I think that's
No,
where you and I both get frustrated is when they talk about that with so much detail. It's almost like the author did all this research, so they gotta throw all that research in the book, and you don't.
no,
So if it slows down the story, it gets frustrating, but Emily does a fantastic job creating this world, and you do understand it, even with the different names of what the windows are. What is it, Glass, and that's what she calls it. But
Glass, yeah.
oh, it's glass, it's windows, because you can tell what the characters are doing. So she doesn't
Yeah,
need to stop and explain what Glass is.
no, and you have to understand, I mean, you understand you're in space, so it's gonna have to be a little bit different than what we would have here just to withstand the pressures and all that. It's perfect. I mean, it's a different name, but it's not like where you have to, like, delve into the molecular structure or anything, it's you get it.
You do, and again, and you tease me a little bit because I'm not always a science fiction reader, yet, okay, I've had to admit that I love Star Wars, especially the original 1977 to 1983 movies. Let's go back to the
Yeah.
original, and, I
Yes.
like Indiana Jones, and I like these adventures,
Mhm.
and it's not a romantic well, it is kind of a romantic suspense in space, but it's almost a romantic adventure in space.
Yeah, that's a better way. I said romantic suspense, I called it that, but
Mhm.
honestly, you're right. It's really an epic adventure, like you could find anywhere, like you said, the Indiana Jones style epic adventure, but in space. So you have those difficulties that you would have, with transportation. You think about Indiana Jones, like he had to travel by what? Elephant a couple times and, whatever. This is
Right.
like that, except they have to find a ship and and so it's very similar to that idea.
Yeah.
And the characters are just very unique, first of all. It's
Mhm.
really easy to tell. You don't need this somebody so and so said, because just the way they talk, she does a fantastic job of separating their personalities, and they are quite different
Mhm.
personality-wise, and not just them, but the side characters as well. Very different personalities, very unique characters, very interesting. Any one of these side characters could have their own story, um,
Well, which my favorite
because
side character is getting his own story next book.
Yes. Yes, he is. But I mean, think about even the ones on the circus, like all of those
Oh,
characters, like
yeah.
those twins, for
Mhm.
instance, that was and the silk thing that they did, that was so fascinating.
Yeah, yeah, the circus
So
itself was an interesting
Mhm.
world, to imagine that and to put
Yeah,
it all together and to have this soldier, which is who Renner is. He's a soldier with the Royal Guard, so we can imagine, prestige, and he goes to this circus in space, and that's where he's hiding out, and, amazing. It's the fish out of water aspect of
yeah,
him being there.
mhm. Yes,
Was
it's very, there was not any parts that I thought felt slow.
mm-mm,
I mean, all the parts fit together. I mean, it did have rhythms to where it would, move quickly through some action, then you would take some time to reflect like a normal story does, but none
mhm,
of it felt
mhm,
slow. It all felt very well paced.
right.
The vocabulary is accessible. It's very
Mhm,
even though it's different, you can still
mhm,
understand it plenty well enough, and she does provide a um, little dictionary at the end. So if you're really, really wanting to know what everything is, you can just flip to the end and you can kind of figure it out. But you don't really need that. I didn't need that. I thought it was fun to see when I got done, but it wasn't
Mhm.
necessary for
Right.
me to understand the story. And yeah, it's different. And I think it's called a space opera on a couple of things I saw. I noticed
Romantic
it
space
was kind
opera,
of,
yeah.
yeah, and, the characters are young,
Mhm.
17 and what, 18, 19 was what
19
Renner, he was a
something.
little older than her, but I
Her
don't know how
audience
much.
is young adult. Emily's audience
Yeah,
is a young adult, but I was
mhm.
drawn into the story as a woman of my age.
I love young adult
Yeah.
stories unless they get too young. Like,
Yeah.
there's a difference. This one is these characters are acting in adult roles because they
Yeah.
have responsibility, both of them. And so you're not gonna get the whiny, middle
Oh,
school-ish types of stuff. You're not gonna get that. These are big problems. These are big, responsibilities that each of them carry. And there's plenty of tension throughout the story that,
mhm.
really drives through and, but the emotional
Mhm.
uh, aspect is really well done. I mean, I felt like everything they felt was e exactly the way I would have imagined it to be, and it was very, it pushed the story deeper and made it timeless in a way.
Genuine. It was a very genuine. You could
Mhm,
relate to the emotions that these characters were feeling, no matter what your age and no matter what the settings. They were very relatable. They were real. They were fleshed
mhm.
out really nicely, actually, on that.
Yes.
And then partway through the story, they introduce when they're on the run, and you get the rogue side character, and his name was Leaf, and he just brought, I don't know, a whole new light to this story and life, and he's somewhat mysterious and somewhat
Mhm.
cocky. And what was he, a cocky
Quite
smuggler?
Yeah, quite cocky, and yeah, he's both, outgoing and reserved at the same time. There's a lot you can tell, and then they mention it even, in the story, how much they don't really know him, but they feel like they do know him, so it's like it's a very interesting, facet of his personality and his character, and, of course, he brings along the Dot, the bot.
No, I loved Dot.
I love Dot too,
Dot had
and
such
even
personality.
Mabel, the ship,
Yeah,
his
yeah.
his ship AI, if you wanna call it that. I don't that AI is kind of a, term now that everybody's like, "Arr," nobody knows what to do with it, but in this story, the AIs are all quite,
Well, it's how Leaf
helpful.
programmed them. So they had personality,
True.
these,
Yes.
mechanical things. So and Leaf, well, no spoilers, but he's the next book in this series. So I am actually really excited
Yeah. Me too.
by
I'm
that.
actually really interested to know who the love interest is gonna be, although I have
Mhm.
several ideas, but it
Ooh,
could be a couple people I'm thinking, but it could be somebody we don't even know, so
yeah,
there's that too. Um, however,
someone new.
I
But anyway, I think I want to say one thing is like me, this is kind of reading outside my normal genre. And I was absolutely captivated. I loved it. And so it's worth
Mhm,
reading outside your normal genre. Plus, you do get a little bit of a love story. So if you like the romance part, it's
mhm,
there. And if you like the adventure, it's there.
mhm.
Even a little bit of the suspense. And then if you love the science fiction world, then oh, it's definitely there. So,
Yes. Yeah, it's a science fantasy because it has like, the science is there, but it's not the in-depth science of science fiction, but it's also not the, complete magical world of fantasy, so it's kind of a blend of the 2,
mhm,
so and it's I think if you like, Ronnie Kendig's sci-fi, space
mhm,
opera types of
mhm,
stories, you would like this.
mhm,
And if you've read Ender's Game, you would like this. If you
mhm.
like Star Wars or like I said, any of the Indiana Jones movies, you would probably enjoy this
Yeah,
book as well.
yeah.
So,
So there you go. Well, I know we enjoyed it, and I think we highly recommend it.
Mhm.
Yes. Mhm. Anything else you want to say, point out? Anything?
No, you just read it. Oh, there is audio coming. I didn't get to listen to the
Okay.
audio because
Yeah.
it wasn't out at the time of this interview or this review, excuse me. But I'm going to get it because I think it would be fun to listen to, and I hope that they do a good job with the characters' voices, but I'm sure they will.
Mhm.
And I think this would definitely. I don't really read a lot of books twice, but I do think
Mhm.
I would read this one again.
Yeah.
Listen to it. I would listen to it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's enough that, yeah, you do. You want to hear the voice. You want to hear
Mhm.
how it's going to be. So, well, we may have to pop back in and update folks when the audio comes out
Yeah.
and attach it to this part of the review. But meanwhile, yeah, this was a fun book. If you haven't picked it up, it's it's that adventure filled and a little suspenseful,
Mhm.
in a wonderfully imaginative world. It'll take you somewhere else, which is kind of nice. Yet you watch these two people grow,
Mhm.
change, realize, kind of come into their own as they explore their feelings and emotions for each other. So it's a good catch-all book and really fun.
It would be a good gift for your teens or anybody that's a reader that likes this type of thing. I would definitely recommend, purchasing it as a gift for that group of people. I think it's a very the story, has a very good theme, and it's all about, light over darkness and that kind of thing, but it's also about, controlling yourself, like, do you, um there's so much today in the world of I'm just gonna do what I want because I want it, and this story is very, much about sometimes you just can't always you have to think about what's best for others rather than yourself, and this story has that. It has a lot of really good themes I would recommend for
Mm.
in along those lines, so
Yeah, nice that you could give it to a teenager, even a younger teenager, and have them read
Mhm.
that. And there are a lot of good lessons in it besides the fun and the adventure.
Yeah.
She really
Yeah,
draws
they're gonna
out
enjoy it.
yeah, and hopefully absorb some of those good things, light over darkness, and sense of doing something for others, which they
Yes.
do. Yeah. So that's it. Well, I think it's easy to say we highly recommend Suspended in the Stars by E.A. Hendryx. We'll put the link up there so you can see it. And we look forward to talking to Emily here in a couple of weeks. She will join us on March 27th. So we hope you'll come back and hear all about how she works. And she wears many hats. And but how she creates story matters a lot to her, and I think it shows in her writing. So it'll be a great conversation with her.
Yeah, be sure and join us again, and in happy spring,
Yes,
'cause
it has
it'll be
arrived.
just past the first day of spring when that comes out, so
Yeah, yeah, that'll be great. All right, well then we look forward to seeing you next time for our conversation with Emily Hendricks. But meanwhile, pick up Suspended in the Stars. We'll see you next time.
yep, bye.